It's showtime.
Bang. Bolt Action
Bang.
News Group.
Bang,
Hey,
bang.
everybody.
Good evening. Good evening. Good day. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Thanks
Hello.
for being here. I'm going to open up the...
Oh,
I just got the notification.
yep. I was getting my echo coming back in from it.
Sorry about that.
That was my fault.
Mute this. There we go. Hey, have you guys... I was going to say, have you guys seen Cart Narcs?
No.
Oh, it's some dude who goes around supermarket parking lots. Guten Nacht, meine Freundin. Hebrew Hammer says. Hey, New Smyrna Times, Thomas Malone, Ronald Truitt, New Mexico citizen, Antichrist, Major Upheaval. What's up, brother? Did somebody piss you off again, Major Upheaval, Gunny? What happened?
No, I've got all the chats that he was put in there. Nothing was bad.
Okay, cool.
From there, that's all. Hey, New Smyrna Times. All right, so we're just waiting on our guest tonight. We're just waiting for our guest to get here tonight, and then we'll get into that. But let's fill up some time. I think Rights Crispy has something that he wants to go over that we did. I can pull the story up if you guys want to see the story too.
Yeah, let's pull that up.
Yep.
Now this guy is accused of having horrific videos of sexual abuse on children. Now, in the story, if you read it all the way at the bottom, they buried the fact that this guy happens to be the Temple Terrace fire inspector here in Tampa. But before that, and I don't know if Cookie's here, he was a paramedic for Suncoast here in Largo, where I live. And before that, he was a firefighter at the Suncoast Fire Department on Indian Rocks Beach. Well, I know a couple of those guys too. And I know a similar thing. Hey, Freethinker. Hey, Accountability for All, AK Lady.
And Chris has made it with us tonight also. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Not bad.
Hey, welcome, Chris.
So we'll just finish.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we just had this little story to warm up before you came in. This is just some scumbag who is from my neck of the woods, and you know, let's hear what all his colleagues and all those other departments have to say. I want to ask them, think of your stories when I come and question you about this guy. Think of what you want to say. Did you know about this stuff? Did you not know about it? Are you stupid? Are you blind? Get ready, because we're going to dig deep on this. Look at him. And George, Rogue Nation said he's got a mustache, no beard.
This is another one, too. In Pinellas.
Probation officer for blackmailing offenders. You want to talk about that one?
We can after Chris is done. Let's let Chris go and do his thing, and then we can go into this stuff afterwards. So our guest tonight is from the channel Child Support Made Simple. Chris, I think he's in here right now, right? We got you?
I'm here trying to get my camera to work.
Okay. Oh, he dropped down for a second. So here, I'm going to put links in for everybody for his channel right now while he's getting his camera and stuff up. There's a link to his channel there. And then, hang on. Let me drop this down like this. And control copy. And there are the Facebook and Instagrams also. And it looks like he's just getting his camera set up and stuff. And as soon as he does that, we will give him the floor.
Did he not have a beard or a mustache? I thought he had a mustache. I
that
thought
guy.
Captain Awesome had said that.
He did. Here, I'll show him again while he's getting his camera together. There he is, right here. Yes.
Yeah, it's just weak. It's just really weak. Yeah, it matches his sideburns.
Right.
Above his ears. What's up, Captain Awesome?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
How we doing? Are you good, Chris?
Still here, just trying to. I can see me in my Logitech, but I can't see me in the square there.
You may need to go into the cam mic settings down in the bottom and select that.
I see it.
Okay.
Okay. There it is. Let me select the camera. There we go.
Thanks again for being here, Chris. You have the floor.
There you go. All right. Perfect.
Okay, so I just need to X out of this to get my camera. Perfect. Great.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, gentlemen, for having me on the show.
Welcome.
Okay. How would you like to start?
Yes. Thank you for coming.
Glad to have you.
Yes. I think some of the guys here have gotten a look at your work already, so they've got kind of an idea about some of the stuff. So I guess let me just leave the floor to you and, introduce us and tell us.
Sure. My story start off just like everyone else that, filed for divorce. I was the plaintiff in the action, not the defendant, which was shocking in New York because most divorces are, filed by women. But through the whole process, they treated me like I was a defendant. So full circle, they basically railroaded me. I had an attorney like everyone else, and I had to drop the attorney and started studying the child support process, the divorce process. And lo and behold, things got real nasty up in a lawsuit against the state of New York and against the magistrate, Mr. Paul Renesky. I don't mind saying his name 10 times. I've written him up so much to the Bar Association. I got him removed from Manhattan to the Bronx. I mean, I've done everything to get this guy out of the system. I'm sure he didn't do it to me, but he did it to everyone else. So through all that, I went to the news media. I went to the New York Times. I went to the Daily News with my story. I went with the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, the local cable. No one wanted to touch my story. They didn't want to report it. They didn't want to look into it. And so I met a gentleman named Gary from the Long Island Backstory. So if some of you are not familiar with Gary's show on YouTube, please visit his website. He's also in the fight for bad judges in throughout New York. It's called the Long Island Backstory. So through that, I decided, I should put this information out there because no one has it. It's nowhere in books. And so I created the, child support. My goal was to make it simple for folks to fight for themselves.
Were you in the New York State court against him in the 2 years he was in the family court? Is that 98 to 2000?
Yes. I was in the courts for 5 years actually, battling back and forth. It wasn't further anything had to do with the divorce. It had to do with the illegal practice of the child support program, and that's what I went after. I went after them and anyone who worked for them. As you know, the judges in family court are paid by the child support agency, and they don't tell you that. You think that they work for the state of New York. They don't work for the state of New York. They actually work for the child support agency. They mask themselves as employees or quasi-employees, they call it in the system. And it's throughout the state, not just the state of New York. It's all through the 50 states. You'll find the same sort of hidden mask contract between the court and the officers. So if you see, say, a policeman in uniform, you're thinking, oh, this person works for the state. No, they have a side contract. They actually work for the child support agency. So theoretically, they're a contractor.
Yeah.
And you don't know that because no one discloses that to you. The judge that's in a robe, you think, oh, that's a judge of New York State. No, could be a judge of New York State, but they're contractors. Everybody's a contract. So theoretically, you're saying, wait a minute, am I in a court or I'm in a room with a bunch of contractors? So in essence, so I put together this website called Child Support Made Simple. So I decided to break everything down. by topics. And I spend a lot of time doing it, as you can tell, because I put both graphics and pictures because I don't want to lose anyone through all of my information. I want them to get it. I want everyone to get it. So I put graphics and pictures and documents, and I try to give the full story in 10 to 15 minutes, shows. So that's where I am. And just to start off with the child support program, most of you probably know it's a $28 billion a year business. They collect about 28.4 billion they collect from men, mostly men. About 99% of their victims are men, but then they pay out 27.4. So there's a $1.1 billion left in the program that all these contractors are sharing in. So basically, they create their own business. That's what they did, and you won't find it anywhere. When I was doing the research, it took me a long time to put together all the material, so that's when I put it together. And basically, I also listened to men who would email me, or we will talk on the phone. We'll schedule some time just to talk about their story, and I try to help them through it. They watch the video, they can see what's going on, and then they can try to tackle their cases, separately. Without, if they want to have an attorney, they're welcome to have one. But my goal is to have them do their cases themselves, just save a few bucks. So that's what I put it together. And I started off with the first video, which is the 5 lawsuits against child support. And I broke it down by the different topics.
You can win.
One of them is to sue the magistrate and the judges. And the goal is because they're contractors, there's an issue of whether they have immunity or not. They don't have immunity. When they're not doing a judicial function, they're just a regular contractor like anyone else, and they can be sued. However, many states and the legislature have put together this quasi-immunity. Doesn't mean anything under the Constitution, right? There's no such thing as quasi-immunity or quasi-judges in the Constitution. And I've challenged them on that. Show me who said there's a quasi-judge or a quasi-constitution. There isn't one, right? But they give themselves immunity and feel that they can operate outside the law. And this is where all the headache starts, because, gentlemen are coming in saying I have a constitutional right, but technically you don't. And why? So let me start here. Child support is an administrative court. Okay, it's not a judicial court. How they bring the judicial court in is through contracts. And I'll say this, of course, for the show, I'm not an attorney. I don't represent anyone. Anything I say, just read yourself, but that's okay.
Yep.
So contractors, and they do that through what is called statute. The child support function off of a federal statute at a state level. I know that's confusing. It's one of the few programs that operates like that. So it's managed by the federal government, but it's actually administered by the state level. So many people think they're actually going after, the federal government Constitution. No, you're not. You're actually dealing with each of the sovereign states, which have their own rules, their own guidelines. So a gentleman in front of the administrative court in California is not the same as Pennsylvania, which is a Commonwealth, or Maryland, or Florida. So the cases are all over the place, but they do have an underlying theme, is that it's done through contracts. So that's the key thing. So let's start off the program itself, what everyone should know. So I'll give you a general overview of what the program is, then I'll take it to the second level, and then I'll leave it open for answering questions. So let's start off with the child support program. It is a congressional program. It's not from the judicial office or the executive branch. It's a congressional program. It was created in 1975, what they call to collect child support for people who, quote unquote, abandon their child. There's a little loophole in the provision of that statute that allowed them to go after every man, whether or not they abandoned their child, and how they get away with it. And if you remember nothing from this webcast, remember this: every man in this country is enrolled in the child support program. They may not have an active case.
Yep.
The statute that covers that is 45 CFR 264.30. It's on my channel. It's on the website. You'll read it. If you read it legalese, you'll say that's not what it is. Yeah. Hello.
He asked if you could say that code one more
Sure.
time.
Right, and everything I'm saying you can reference back to my YouTube channel, but I'll say it here. It's called 45 CFR 264.30. if you read that wise, you'd say, wait a minute, something's wrong. But if you take out all the legal stuff and just put in the following words, the state agency mandates all men should be in the program for paternity that has not been established, which are single men. The second part of that of A says, and for those who paternity need to be established, and enforcement to the state, which means are men with children. So now you've heard every man in the country on that statute. Again, if you read, really, yes, all of us are enrolled in it. It's just that some of us have an active case. And the number of active cases, as of 2018, which was the last reported number of people in the program, there are 13 million people, men, in the program.
Yep.
That's how large this is. Every year, they get another 1.4 million men into the program. How do they get them? For those that now have children. So you have everyone in the program, and as you have a child, you then move into another category in the program, 1.4 million each year. So for men who don't have a child support program saying, oh, I'm part of this, that's not true. You are. And for those that are struggling with it, I'm hoping the other men will sort of give them sympathy, because one day you will. And here's why. As of COVID-19, 40 million Americans have applied for unemployment and a stimulus. That means they're anticipating about 2 million more men will now have active cases in the child support program as a result of COVID-19, and it could be higher.
Yep, because when you sign up for any government assistance program, you're automatically enrolled into that system.
Well, you're automatically activated. You're already enrolled.
Yes. Activated.
You're activated, right. Now, there's a category of men who are not in the program. It's a little sort of a hidden secret. When the last president left office, he signed about 230 executive orders. In one of his executive orders, he says that anyone that's an independent contractor or a 1099 worker, they are not included in child support. And if they are in the program, they literally can file to get out of the program. It's a hidden, I believe it's on my YouTube channel, 15637 executive order. And by the way, every child support director in all 50 states, they know this, but what they do is they still try to keep those men into the program. They call them private customers. So they create a whole category for these men to keep them in, call them private customers. And then they don't tell them that they actually can opt out of it. And so I created several videos on that. It's called the 1099 videos. I did one for Texas, California, New York, Florida. It's in all 50 states.
I see you have about 40 videos on all this stuff, and one of them's "Give Back My Paycheck."
Right. The one with "Give Me Back My Paycheck." There's another segment of the business community where in 2019, the Child Support Agency was able to secure a $30 million contract with the human resources for almost every company in America. Now, someone would say, how are they able to do that? As you know, ADP is one of the largest payroll companies in the country. It handles about 40% of all the payrolls. Well, they're able to ink a deal with ADP and several other payroll companies that now the execution of income garnishment is done by computers.
Yep.
They were able to do that in 2018. And again, on my site, I give you the contract, I tell you who it is. But this is so what ADP did was they create a separate agency, a separate company, unlisted, that handles this. So if you go to your ADP payroll department in your job, like at Walmart or any of the stores or even some companies, they'll tell you, oh, we're not involved in the child support program. Yes, you, the parent company, is not involved, but your subsidiary that handles all of these cases, they're the ones that has the contract, and it's huge. It's a huge contract. It's a $30 million, and what that does, it fast tracks the garnishment. So within 24 hours of you being activated in the program, the garnishment starts that quickly. So that's the other side to it. So let's move on to the people that are in it, there are generally three classifications of men that are in the program. Those that are coming in brand new, under 5 years, and there are those within 5 to 15 years. The ones that are over the 20-year mark, 18-year mark. Now that particular group tend to owe arrears. They no longer have a child support case. What they have is arrears, which is a made-up category because everyone knows with money, there's only interest. Arrears are not really interest. They just created that name to say, okay, we're going to say the money that we charge you, those fees, we'll put in category and call it arrears. So that's the group of men that are in that. Their child is almost at the emancipation level of 18, 19. They're getting out of the program, but then they have this huge bill between 50 to 60,000 that they owe the state. And by the way, you owe the state.
Yep.
The money.
Yeah,
you don't owe it to the.
If I'm right, that just means like that you're late, not late fees, just that you're late. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, these are the fees that's accumulated over the years of the program. So, for example, let's say you were ordered to pay $100 a month, and if you don't pay on time, they'll charge you, let's say, 8%. So that 8% accumulates, and it varies by state. In New Jersey, there is no interest. So you missed the payment of $100. So they charge you, let's say, $5 for that late payment. That's the arrears category. In some states, they'll charge interest on that arrears. So you don't realize that you have an underlying payment that's growing. Then you have arrears that's growing at an interest rate, right? So that's two separate pieces. But in some states, they don't charge interest rate, like New Jersey, they don't. And a few others, they don't. But states like New York, Texas, California, they charge anywhere from 7% to 12%. The highest is 12%, which is Indiana, Nebraska, and Massachusetts. Charge 12% on arrears. So you wonder why when these guys tell their story, they're like, how is it that my payment will never catch up on my arrears? The interest payments. That's
and where do they file that action? In their own state, where the kid was born, wherever you are? How's that work?
Right. Action meaning a lawsuit or?
Right. Well, this where you're ending up in arrears.
Okay. Your arrears belongs to the state. The way they crafted the program is ingenious. They have what is called a single state action with multi-state enforcement. And that way, if you move from state to state, you're still part of their jurisdiction, you're still part of their program.
That's what I was
right?
asking.
So if you're in New York and you move to, let's say, Connecticut, it follows you. But here's the catch. Connecticut is now the enforcer of the order, but they can't change the underlying order. So what happens to some men get trapped in, I moved to Connecticut and I'm fighting Connecticut. And then Connecticut will turn around and says, well, we can't change this order. It's not our order. We're just enforcement. And we get a fee for enforcing it. So it was called a single state order, multi-state action.
Wow.
So the goal for that is you only deal with the state of origination. Oh, by the way, I meant to say this as well. You'll hear a lot of people quote this, Blessing versus Freestone. That's the case that the Supreme Court says that child support has nothing to do with the mother and the child. And that's absolutely correct. I did a video on my channel called Mother Did Not Put You on Child Support, and that was the SNAP food stamp program. If the mother and child is on the food stamp program, it does not mean that you're in child support. I make that very clear in the video. The commissioner of the SNAP program, she went to Congress and told them, do not add Title IV-D to my program because it would cost me too much to manage, and it was never added. Here's what they do in the States. When you go to court, they go, oh, the mother's on welfare, therefore you must be on child support. Ask them to show you the statute. In my video, I show you the statute. It is not. So that's one of the first videos I did. There's part 2 where I can prove the rest of all the government program. Mom did not put you on child support. Title IV-D is a separate agency from the government. It is not. It is a private corporation created by Congress and a group of attorneys in order to collect fees as a third-party debt collection agency on behalf of the government. It is no different than the IRS. It's no different than the post office, and it's no different than the Federal Reserve. All those agencies are not part of the government, but they do support the government, but they're not part of the government. So that's what they did. They created another quasi-agency, which is what they call themselves, to collect fees. Now, in those fees are the deadbeat dads. Yes, you got a bunch of those, but that's such a small portion of their great business. Their great business is take money from, because in other words, they followed the money.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move to the second category of men, which are those that are in the middle, right? 5 years in to 10 years, which is the bulk of their business. Now, those guys, they destroy them. They take their license if they don't pay. They take their passports. They harass their jobs. And so the bulk of men that are fighting the system are within that category. And this is where you have to know some of the statutes and laws within your state in order to fight them. That's why I said you have to understand the local statute, not the federal statute, the local statute, because you're being punished according to local laws, even though it's a federal program. So here's a question that most people don't ask. Well, if it's not a government agency and it's created by Congress, why can't the judiciary branch shut it down? They have ruled against them in so many cases. Why don't they just shut it down all the way? They can't. The Supremacy Clause of the United States prevents one branch of government from interfering with the other branch of government. So while the judiciary branch understands that the program itself has what is called trampled on people's rights, you can't go in and shut them down. So they just allow them to operate until a case comes before them. And this month, a landmark case was before the Third Circuit and got passed. People, when they file lawsuits against child support, the district courts always says, you can't sue because it falls under the Rooker-Feldman doctrine. We'll do a video on that. That has been the Achilles heel of the program. You can't sue these guys in federal district court because they have what is called the Rooker-Feldman. Simply, the Rooker-Feldman is the federal government can't interfere with domestic matters of the state because the states have 11th Amendment immunity, and they do. Today, the Third Circuit has changed that. That is a fantastic change because now all those cases that was once thrown out of district court and circuit court can now go back into circuit court under the Constitution and sue these guys. So that's a new change this month. Again, this has been going on for 40 years, but these justices decided to look at the Feldman doctrine and says, wait a minute, it's been hindering people from coming into court to seek resolve and punishment against some of these judges that basically take your money. So that's a new change. So more lawsuits to come in, and this time the circuit courts will not be just throwing them out. They'll actually review them case by case. So that's it. In between, so the guys in the middle, those are the guys. They'll take their children from them. They will take their license. And some of them have gone into bankruptcy. A few have actually committed suicide because of how they treat them. It's the bad story. And that's one of the reasons I also put together the channel, is to say, look, all is not lost. After your attorney, you've spent all that money on attorneys, you can still go back in and fight. But this time, the knowledge which I've put on the YouTube channel can help you. So in all my YouTube channels, I give you the case laws to review. I give you the strategies to review, such that you don't feel like, well, I don't know what I'm doing and these guys. But I will say this. Try not to be in their courts. Do whatever you can to get out of their courts. The goal of fighting is to get out of there. Don't stay in there. These guys are experts. Remember, if you have a $28 billion year business, I can hire the best attorney to fight you for that money between you and your employer. I can. So the goal is to go in, fight, get out of it, get the garnishment to stop, and then you fight for your family. The last video I did on YouTube, on my channel, was people thought that if you fight for custody, you're on child support. No. The Supreme Court says those are two separate things.
Yep, two distinct.
You can fight for your child and has nothing to do with child support. Nothing. No payment or anything. It's just you fighting for your custody of your child. And the case that I like to use is called Santosky versus Kramer. It's a New York State court that went to the Supreme Court and basically says, you have a 14th Amendment right to life, liberty, and family. and the courts cannot interfere in that relationship. In fact, the reason why I like the case so much, there's a paragraph in there halfway down where one of the justices says, even if the family is not a model family, which means anything, they could be on drugs or whatever, the state's responsibility is to keep the family whole, not to rip them apart. Which is different, because you hear all these court cases of fighting. No, the state's role in that environment is to keep them together in order to satisfy the 14th Amendment. Most people don't like the 14th Amendment, but under the courts, that's the one that they use to keep the family together.
Yep.
So that's for custody cases. So custody cases are not the same as child support cases. They're two different things. The key thing to remember when you're in child support is it's a contract. Everyone in the room is on a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And their contract is to take your money. If you get anything out of this, is once you walk into that room, there's a movie called, The Schmuck for Dinner. You're the main course in that room. You need to get out of there. You fight to get out of there because nothing good comes of it. Fighting them in there is not. If you want to fight them, you get out and you fight them in district court, Supreme Court, or circuit court. And like I said, they used to throw the cases back because of Rooker-Feldman. As of this month, the Rooker-Feldman doctrine is now under scrutiny. So I'm going to see a lot more guys getting out of child support case and then turning around and suing them for what they've done to them. So that's a good thought. Any questions from anyone or?
Before then,
so
I'm sorry.
Overview of the program.
You have really shed light on something that I've seen. I haven't been a victim of this, and I've seen people who have fallen victim of this trap that they put you in. It's just like they don't care how much you make. They want a NBA player's salary out of you, and it's just devastating to so many people, mostly guys. So your videos I see are just that beacon of hope. How do you fight? This guy's going to show you. Mm-hmm. And any questions anybody has.
And I put it that way. Right. And I started that way because I want to show you how to fight. Because what's happening is, and my motto for my channel is Sun Tzu. In order to defeat your enemy, you need to understand your strategy. Because if you don't understand your strategy, you're going to be defeated at every battle. But if you understand their strategy and their direction, then you'll win some and you'll lose some. Because as Sun Tzu says, you have to take the fight to them. You want to disarm your enemy. They're going to still come after you. And the good thing is once you start the fight, the enemy of enemy is your friend. Which means your allies will come out once they know you're fighting that beast. So yes, that's what you have to do. You have to fight them. Sitting by is not going to help. You have to fight. And the first group of people that needs to fight, independent contractors. Again, if you're a 1099 worker or independent business, you are the first wave of people need to get out of the program. And I mean, literally fight to get out. Don't stay there because they will liquidate your business. They will seize your business. They'll put it in a bond and you built a business for 10, 15 years. And all of a sudden the sheriff comes in and slap a paper on it that says we're seizing this business as a result of child support.
Yep.
You don't want it. So you fight to get out.
That's what I was going to say about keeping the family together. That's what the state is supposed to do in your 14th Amendment, right? But what they do is, I heard there's a 14-year-old kid they saw selling pot or something, and they took the family's $350,000 house in a forfeit asset. That's what they do.
Yes, it falls under forfeit of assets. Many of the police departments do that now. In fact, Miami was one of the first who started it when the drug trade was very big out of Havana, right the coastline between Miami. They used, the legislature passed a little law that says whatever you catch, you keep. So that was big for them. So other states have practiced.
Did I say forfeit asset? I meant asset forfeiture.
Yeah. Asset forfeiture, yes.
Yeah.
So that's basic. So you'll find that a lot. They take out a bond on you. What they do is, and I know there's a few people who are listening says, well, in order to get out of child support, you'll use the sovereign citizen movement, all of those. I say use whatever tools are at your availability. I tend to use the law.
Yep.
in my, I don't talk about, the other side of it, if you can. I just tend to use the law because I think if you're in a room where everyone else understands the law and you're walking in there, you need to understand the law just like that. Because if you're going to defeat them, they're going to say things in the room hoping that you don't understand, and you want to have a working knowledge of it. And one of the working knowledge you need to have is, guys, you're under a contract, aren't you? Now let them be silent. Oh, I know you're under a contract. In fact, the whole family court is a contract. Why? Because the family court has a DUNS number attached to it.
Yep.
What's the DUNS number? The DUNS number is used to trade on the stock market. You guys are a business. You're a corporation, each of you. Sure. So if there's a contract, there's a dummy name for it. I'll give an example. I'm going to give the secret. Massachusetts. In Worcester County, Massachusetts Family Court has a DUNS number. Their name under the private contract is Worcestershire Educational Services. That's not AKA Family Court.
Yep.
So they create another corporation in which they do all the contract business right underneath the nose of the judicial branch. They can't touch them, and that's how they run this program. They run it through a series of contracts. My latest video that says it's a corporation, not the government. I showed you 2 of the contracts between Texas, Harrison County, Ohio, where the county people actually signed the contracts on behalf of the judges. And this year, their current rate is that they're paying them $230 an hour for their time.
Yep.
It's a contract. It's not about the mother. It's not about the child. Yes, they say your mom take you to court. No, it's the government taking you to court. That's all it is. It's nothing more, nothing less. And that's why the 2 Supreme Court cases I use in my YouTube channel is Blessing versus Freestone, which says mother and child are not a part of the Title 4D program. The other one I use is U.S. versus Sage out of the Second Circuit, where those justices came back and says, child support is nothing more than an interstate contract, and to think of it any other way is false. Again, you ask, if the justices know what they're doing over there, why can't they stop them? Again, the supremacy clause prevent the judicial branch from stepping in and shutting them down. They can't touch them. I'm sorry. It's so you have to fight your way out.
So
the only way to fight the way out, they have a basic license to steal because they're all municipalities, they're all corporations. So your sheriff or police officer that's running a court, he has a contract packet for the services. Yeah, he has a contract in his pockets, and that
our
falls
sheriff
under,
coming up is the only guy who was in jail who won custody of his kids, and he beat that court. So hopefully he'll change that in our county. Sheriff James McGlynn is for sheriff.
Right. So that's what's the other side to it. Why is your employer part of this program? Like the way they're getting their money, 90% of income withhold is done through your employer. They have a contract, again, same contract.
Yep.
Why? Because your employer becomes a third-party debt collector under the federal program where they get a fee for collecting your debt. So you'll see when they deduct your child support, if you owe $100 a month, you'll see a $15.78 fee, and it's labeled something else. You know, why are you charging a fee for my paycheck? Well, they're allowed to because the contract says so. You know, they're allowed to. So this is where, like I said, remember the other side of ADP, that little hidden company in the back? That's where that fee goes to. So the ADP company, and they're going to get on my case for reporting, but they get to do what is called plausible deniability. Yep. I have no idea what's going on in your paycheck. Fair, because the outside companies do it. Another one is Deloitte. Deloitte is another one of those private. You have the bank that takes the money, like for instance, Bank of America does a lot of those for corporate for the judges. They also has a little fee structure through that process. Again, it's a $28 billion. Think of this: you have a $28 billion a year business. You could do a lot with that money, a whole lot. You know, then there's pools and shareable money and fees, and Oh, you'd be surprised how, again, once you deep down into the fund and you look at the breakdown, it started off as a good idea, but it turned into a monster, an out of control monster. So let's look at it now that we've seen the company side, the Title 4D side, the judicial side. Let's deal with the man that's in the middle of this. So the guy that's now wants to see his child, wants to fight, goes into this room and just get beaten up. Well, his first thing he needs to understand that he needs to challenge them and stop talking about your child. When you're in the Title 4D court, stop. Now that you know it's not about your children, and if you want to fight for custody, you go across the street, Supreme Court, and do that. You're in the wrong court. Don't fight for custody in child legal court. They can't. You got to go across the street for that.
Yep.
Just deal with the money issue. And what you're looking for is fraud. The whole system survives on fraud. And you keep track of it. Who did what, when, and where. In my case, my background is I'm a tax strategist, tax advisor. So I deal with a lot of money. I deal with a lot of paperwork for taxes. I'm licensed in New York State taxes for both individuals, small business, corporation. So what got me...
Like we didn't love you enough already, man. You're getting a lot of love from everybody in the chat too.
Right. But so something happened when my Paul Reneske did the calculation and handed it back to me, and I said, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. I challenged him on it. Sure, he challenged me back. I challenged and then took it to a judge and they go, whatever he decides, win, and he has immunity. I said, that can't be. I am more qualified than he is. In fact, if he comes to me with his paperwork, I'm licensed to do it. If I go to him, he couldn't do my paperwork. How come he gets immunity from creating these false numbers and I don't get to challenge him? And that's when I realized, wait a minute, these guys created a massive money-making scheme and then give themselves immunity from fraud. Because no way for me to say that a judge should be making financial decisions. And nowhere else in our economy this happens. You get a CPA, you get a bookkeeper, you get an investment advisor, you get a chartered accountant. All those guys and me have a certificate or a license to practice that stuff. They get to practice it without a license and then get immunity from the mistakes they make. That's fraud. I'm working on a video how to go after these guys specifically. In my opinion, every man in the child support program has a potential lawsuit against every magistrate that even touched a financial instrument.
We'll say his name again, Paul Reneski, Ryneski.
Oh, did we lose Chris?
They have no license for it.
Okay.
We got him back.
We got him back. He jumped a little bit. Oh, it looks like he's lagging a touch. Yeah, he's lagging.
So in essence, you should fight. I'm still here.
Okay, there you are. Okay, now. Yeah, you lagged just a little bit.
Right. So anyone with a question that, or any, let's say not specific case, but something that they want to answer to. I think I've covered just the basics that happen in all 50 states. Now, when you get into the states itself, it will change a little bit. For example, New Jersey. New Jersey is no longer allowed to take your driver's license. It was a lawsuit back in 2019 that forced the judges not to take your license anymore. It's called Cabandas versus DMV. In that case, the Department of Motor Vehicles executive director got fired after the lawsuit. As of April 2nd, 2019, child support can no longer take your driver's license in New Jersey without due process. Not just due process by just giving you, they're allowed to also give you counsel. But that as a result of a lawsuit. A second lawsuit is going on again in New Jersey. New Jersey seems to fight very hard and file these lawsuits. In New Jersey, emancipation, which is when the child reaches the age of 19, it's automatic for New Jersey. It's the only state where you don't need to file any paperwork. The child hits 19, You're out of the program automatically. You want to come back in, the mother has to file a whole series of paperwork. But again, New Jersey got sued under Governor Christie. Christie signed the order, the agreement, and that was it. Other states, they can go as high as 21. The one state that goes higher is 24. You can literally get child support if the child is 24 years of age. I don't know how you get away with that because a 24-year-old is not a child.
Yep.
But this is what the legislators do.
And
so in essence, you're fighting a shadow.
Money.
If you really think about it, you're fighting a shadow because none of these guys will tell you that they're contractors. They'll never tell you that the CSE is a private agency. They'll never tell you they're not a part of the government. All they say is, well, the law says we need to collect this.
Yep.
And you go, why? And they don't give you an answer. In fact, they're very quiet about it.
These guys have both been in one of these enforcement agencies. They have seen the way that people get treated inside of these places.
Right.
Yeah, when you said you got to fight it in the court, like you pretty much almost literally have to fight it because these people come in with this attitude. Even during like the COVID thing, I heard a call, and it was like the over the phone trying a webinar thing, and the guy's like, "No, I don't have access to all this stuff you're asking me to do." All of a sudden, oh, but why don't you have access? Don't you have like anything? You could get it from here, beg, borrow, steal, something. It's just so like overbearing and absurdly like unrealistic to
right.
Like demand,
it was designed that way.
Like bleeding a stone. Like it's just I don't know.
Right. And then during this pandemic, I did a video called "What Should You Do If You're on Child Support in the Pandemic?" And one of the things I put in the video is that you need to file for a modification. You need to stop the clock on your child support. If you don't, they have a statute, and I put in the video that the modification that you filed, it doesn't go backwards. So let's say you didn't file a modification in February, but you waited till August. Anything that happened between February and August doesn't count. But if you file a modification, then it goes back to the date of filing. So the best thing is, it says when you're in the last 2 minutes of the touchdown, you punt, right? You throw the ball away. You stop the clock. Same way, stop the clock. And then after we get out of this COVID, go back and work through all the modification. In the event that you lost your job or you have to get a new job or, you just can't pay. So, by the way, let's talk about the stimulus check. So I helped a few people get their stimulus check. They sent the stimulus check out, and they give you this letter that says, we're going to intercept your child support check. So I've written this template that I use to help guys, because if you read the letter very carefully, what it is, it's a permission. It's not a demand. They said, the first sentence says, if you do nothing, we will take your check. Well, do the reverse. If you could take my check, you'd have already taken it and then send me a letter that you took it. What you did was you sent me a letter as a permission asking me you'd like to take it. So basically what you have to do is file a letter back, a rebuttal, and says, I don't want you to take it. I don't want you to take it. And then fight it from there. So it's the reverse. I've never seen what they call a negative confirmation, meaning you do nothing, I take your money. It's like saying a guy walks up to the street and says, give me your wallet. And you go, here. Right? So in the second stimulus check, I hope it will set aside the report where it can be forgiven or whatever the case may be.
I've seen them discussing
that,
yeah.
Yeah, they're discussing that now, but the first one fell through the cracks.
Yep.
It fell through the cracks. All that $1,200 that got sent to all those men got intercepted unless they, and again, there goes the fight again. You got to fight. You have to fight.
This is a constant fight, and it wears.
Yeah, let me reiterate on that. I see a comment here in the chat. Anybody who's feeling like you're alone in this, you're obviously not. So don't check out, man. Keep fighting, and don't, as grim as it looks, you have light at the end of the tunnel. This guy's telling you how to do it. So there's your fight.
Right.
There's your boxing trainer.
Yep.
Right. And again, you fight with everything. Like I said, there's several strategies on YouTube and the internet of how to do this. My strategy is to take the fight to them, knowing the laws that they're using. So if they say something, you're fully versed in it. For example, they would say, well, we take child support whether you're a private business or W-2. Well, that's not true because the executive letter says you're not. And then they said, well, we need to have the program open for everyone, not according to Corelli versus Hauser. Again, another Supreme Court decision that says not true. If the person wants to get out, you should give them an opportunity to get out. You should just keep them in. But again, even though the Supreme Court says it, they can't dip into the child support and says, okay, guys, you need to stop. See, that's the problem that everyone's frustrated with. Why can't the judicial branch, after all these cases, say to Congress, you need to shut that program down? You created it in 1975. It was a good idea at the point, but it's out of control. You need to just shut it down. They can't do that. What they can do is, if you bring the cases to them, they can adjudicate it. Like I said, someone brought them a case 2 years ago for the Rooker-Feldman, and this month, Rooker-Feldman is now gone, which means all these cases can now come to us on the judicial side. That's the best they can do because their hands are tied. The judicial branch hands are tied. They can't interfere in Congress. So
Yep.
basically why the judicial branch can't, in some cases, correct these, what I call constitutional problems. For example, taking your gun. Like, they will put in you first lose your right to your firearm. You can never lose your right to your firearm. And how they get around in the legislation, I don't understand. Like I said, no, you want to take my driving license, fine, go ahead. I can travel without a driving license in every state, Supreme Court rule. But when you take away my Second Amendment over a program that's not even a government program, then that becomes a big fight. So again, I'm sorry, this is a program for fighting.
Yeah.
It's like a shadow government. It's a shadow government. And I'm not creating theories. This is real. Child support is a real agency, just like all the others, except it takes advantage of men, mostly men. Now, there are a few women who pay child support, don't get me wrong, because they have to open the program, everyone, but their primary function are men. That's their primary function, is to take it from men, because that's what the statute says. Again, I'll repeat the statute, 45 CFR 264.30. It says the state agency must refer all participants for whom paternity need to be established. Well, you don't need to establish paternity for women. So what you're talking about is, that's why. That's just plain and simple. You don't do paternity for women. You do paternity for men. And that's what the program starts. That's the crutch of the program. So, any other questions from the team?
Are there any from you guys, or do we want to bring them into the chat now? Because there's been a couple of questions that have been running through the chat and stuff like that.
Yeah, run it through the chat. Chris, great topic tonight, and you really did cover it. I want to thank you for being on. Some of the stuff you touched upon. A lot of people out there don't realize, the corporation side of it.
Right.
A lot of people, struggle telling me that their towns or cities or states aren't incorporated, and it boggles the mind because we all drive by those signs that say such and such a place incorporated in 1865 or other have you nots, and they don't understand a lot of that stuff. So what you said about law and knowing, these guys are using, it's just like you go anywhere. You go into somebody's house, you got to know the rules of the house. Otherwise, you're going to get kicked out. You're going to.
Correct. And that's what I try to bring is the rules of the house. See, once you know the rules, then you can play by those rules.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a question from Noli D that says, very interesting. Do you have a book or website other than your YouTube?
I want to do the YouTube because it gives everyone the flexibility to have a phone that they're in 10 to 15 minute video. You can just get the story. So I create each story such that you're not, because remember, this is a large program. Don't think that this is some small operation. This is a big operation. And the only way is to say, if you want to eat an elephant, eat a bite at a time. So that's why I create the YouTube, and that's why I use, colors and graphics. But if some people want to learn visually, I give them that. Some people just want the audio. They're welcome. But the point is, everyone has a phone. So if you're waiting in line now that the COVID environment and you're waiting in a long line, you can watch my videos and get a sense of what you need to get done. I don't have a book, don't have a website, I'm not running a business. I just got very angry of what
it's not about that. We all love YouTube, obviously, but YouTube can shut you down and once they don't like your message.
Yep.
Correct. And I'm not, and I would say this, I'm waiting for them. I've been truthful in all my videos, so I shouldn't get a strike anywhere. I did have last year a group of law school students who went through the site. They questioned some of my citations. But they never came back and said anything was accurate, that I said anything wrong, or a comment that I made that was misconstrued. But they grill me on some of these decisions. One guy grilled me on, well, U.S. versus Sage, S-A-G-E is the case. Well, he theoretically lost the appeal. I said, it doesn't matter whether he lost the appeal. The justices came back and says child support was an interstate contract. And that's all it was. I said, they're not wrong in their decision whether he win or lost. So the student was like, yeah, but you go by win or lose. I said, yeah, you're an attorney. I said, I'm a layperson. I just want to know what the law says. I don't care whether the guy won or not. I'm not interested. I just want to know what the law says. And the law says child support's nothing more than a contract. And turned out it really is a contract.
It is.
Between the county and the private agency. It is.
Right.
And they contract out their services.
That's another good point you pointed out there, Chris, and that is, reading case law to find out the reason why they made the decision. It's not so much the decision, but if you can understand the reason why they made that decision, you can incorporate those facts into your life.
Correct.
And you can also, pretty much guesstimate what's going to happen in your case per se, if you understand the reason why they make these decisions that they make, and the laws, the legal doctrines like domicile and parent parente and all these other legal, like I said.
And you'll see lawyers cite those cases in their defense.
So, for instance, you'll find a custody case, which is what the majority of the cases are. If you understand Statutory versus Kramer, then you'll end up getting rid of the guardian ad litem, the psychologist, the mediator, and the person who sits when you visit. And you have to pay all these people. So you have to pay all the people. Once you reach Santos, you go, wait a minute. I need all you guys on my case. I just need to
kind of robotic.
That,
a little bit.
I just need the state, so I get rid of all those guys. And the reason why I love Santoshi cases, you can do it as a pro per. You don't have to do it. Nowhere in the decision says you must have an attorney counsel. It just says you need to do it.
Can't get what you're saying, Chris. You're kind of breaking up like robotically.
Okay.
There's just a little bit of lag again.
Yeah.
All right.
Underwater audio.
I should be back now.
Sounds like it's clearing up, yeah.
Yeah.
Am I back yet?
We'll have some tribal duties, gentlemen.
It seems like it's clearing up.
I want to thank you for gracing our show, Chris. You are a hit in the chat and on the panel.
Yep.
But I do got to go, and I thank you very much, and I hope you keep fighting and helping people fight. And good luck to everyone out there who's struggling with this uphill battle. And remember, you're not alone.
No, you're not alone. It's like I said, the program right now has enrolled over 13 million men are in the program. It's going to grow to about 17 million people. That's, for every man is another side of the family who's struggling.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Wrights. Have a good one. Okay. All right. So we had one other question that came up before we pretty much sign off for the evening. Where was that? Okay, so this was, it seems a little bit off topic, but it's not, because it works the same way, I think. Does alimony work in the same kind of system that the child support system works in?
Well, here's what happens. They merge the alimony system in the child support. In your divorce decree, you need to separate those two. You separate them.
Okay.
The statute, what happens, the statute allows the child support to take over the responsibility of alimony. But if you put in your contract that that's a separate issue, then you can get around that.
You would get out of it.
It's not mandatory.
Okay.
It's
So that would be a whole nother video then at that point.
Right.
Okay. Well, definitely thank you very much for coming on tonight. I don't see any more things coming out right now, but let me get your channel out there one more. Do you have anything else, Rogue Nation?
No, just thanks a lot again, Chris, for coming on, and thanks a lot for what you do, because education and knowledge, I think, is key. And like I tell everybody, real quickly, there's 3 things that every adult human uses every day of his life, no matter what color, no matter what country. And those things are your brain, the law, and currency. Every adult human uses those 3 things every day of their adult life. And as such, we all need more than just a passing knowledge of those 3 topics if we're going to make anything out of life that's worthy, I think. There's a lot of people that go through life being what I call belief zombies, that don't like the hard task of thinking, or cracking open like a law book because it's old, dry, or dusty, or whatever used to forego the hard work of looking in the child support statutes like you yourself have. I mean, all these books, all this knowledge that you have acquired, other men or women could have acquired as well themselves. It's there, and like you said, when you read that case law and it said, that the child support agency was an interstate contract, they tell us how they're defrauding us. They really do. We just have to take the time to look and understand it. Social Security is the exact same way. Social Security, Nestor versus Fleming, states that we don't have any property interest in that Social Security money that we've given to the government. So, I mean, when we go out and we do our First Amendment audits, the government's scared of us having cameras, because even the fact that we're not going in there to expose any one specific person or incident, they're just so paranoid because they realize they're defrauding the population so many different ways from Sunday, and they just assume that we know one or other ways that they're defrauding them, and we'll come to bust them. And that's why in almost every video we have in government buildings, they literally freak out when we come there to look at what our public officials are doing with our money. I've had people tell me that public bank accounts ain't public information. Like, we just give them money and they put it in their bank account, don't got to tell us what they do with it. And I'm waiting months to get information on public bank accounts from our public servants.
Isn't it 28 USC 3001 that all crimes are commercial?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, because it's, again, like you said, everything's contract. Everything from the marriage license and everything in between.
Recreational driving thing.
An implied contract or an express contract.
Right. Yep. And the third one, an acquiesce contract, which most of us fall into.
Yep.
We just give up.
I saw that
Right.
mentioned a couple times in the chat after also.
Yes, silence is consent.
Yep. All right, everybody. Well, I think that's pretty much it for tonight. Chris, hopefully we can have you back on again too at some point in the near
Sure.
future. We'll go over some
No, I'd
other
be happy to again because the case laws are changing. Like you said, 20 years ago when they put this in place. Yeah, yes, like I said, I will do a video on it on the Rooker-Feldman Third Circuit decision. It's a good decision. I'm telling you, it is going to help a lot of men because every time we have a grievance in the courts, they go, "Oh, we can't touch it." 11th Amendment immunity, Rooker-Feldman.
Yep.
Now we can say, we can now come through the doors of the judicial branch for remedy.
Yep. And that's what we need to have is remedy with it. So,
Right. Solo remedy.
yep. Well, unbelievably great information tonight. Thank you so much.
Look, you're welcome. And thank you guys. I really appreciate you getting the word out. And like I said, I've gone to the newspapers. I've gone to the Wall Street Journal. I've gone to all of them. And no one will do the story.
Nope.
No one.
They won't. They won't. Well, hopefully this will get some good traction here and we can get the word out and everybody can share in how to deal with this system and
Correct.
maybe break its back, because if we take the money away from it, that's how we break its back, so it can't continue on anymore.
Correct.
All right.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Keep the fight. Remember, this is our country. If we lose it, we got nothing else. Okay.
All right. Agreed.
Right.
Definitely.
Thank you.
All right. I will be in touch with you very soon, Chris. I'll talk to you soon.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
All right. Thanks for everybody coming out. I hope everybody had a good time and learned some good knowledge there.
Yes.
I want to thank Guys on the State for bringing Chris to our attention. And hopefully we can get people along the same lines in here to fill out our knowledge on the topic.
Yes.
But I've got to get out of here, and we'll see everybody soon.
Well, we're out. Talk to y'all later. Have a good evening. Bang, bye.